Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jaya Kula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are.
Just had the week of medium level disasters, urgent and kind of like requires like immediate action. And I'm just wondering what we can do in that kind of circumstance to not get so pulled in.
Well, integrated practice in the very simplest form. We all can feel those engines of obsession and compulsion and urgency chugging along. And when you notice that happening, you can immediately invoke some of your practice. You can just think about your practice. You can think about me. You can do a little mantra. You can just pop into the heart space for a quick flow. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. You have so many tools. You just have to remember to use them. That's the trick. It's all reminding you who you really are. And even if you don't fully know who you really are, at least it reminds you what you really are about. Like, what is your life actually about? What do you want it to be about? What are you here for? Not getting all wrapped up in all this stuff that you get wrapped up in and all urgent about. That's not the purpose of your life. You're studying in two major wisdom traditions right now. You have a lot to draw on. This is what always reorients me if I start to go off the rails. What is my life actually about? It is not about this. It is not about whatever it is I'm about to get into. All you need is a moment of recentering on that, and then you can continue and have a different energetic feeling, different emotional feeling. And the fact that you randomly remember to do it, or you only intermittently remember to do it, that's our condition. That's called not being fully realized. The idea is that the more you can remember, the more momentum you build up, and the more it becomes a new habit. That's a good thing. You want to create a new samskara of remembering to do that. You could tie a vow string. You could put a sign on the inside of your door reminding you. Get a tattoo. I don't know. Whatever you need to do to remind you so that you do it 10% more than you were doing it last week. And then it becomes more of a habit. But don't complain about yourself or feel bad about yourself or think it's a problem that you only remember intermittently. That's everybody's condition. There was one person I knew who was a really, really good practitioner. And he said one time that the goal of his life was to be able to be aware for a solid hour without getting distracted of the sunti at the beginning and the end of each breath. I mean, this is after like 80 years of doing sadhana. That was his goal. So let's be a little modest here. And just do your best.
I have a question about integrated practice too. I think because I have done a lot of suppressing in my life, I get into a little bit of an internal dialogue around letting feelings happen and working with them with practice. And sometimes when you do practice, the feeling actually kind of abates, and sometimes it doesn't. And because I have done some suppressing, if it doesn't work, I guess I'm not totally clear of what my question is, except that I feel unclear about practice.
Yeah, there's this whole discourse of like working with stuff. And then there's the stuff that we do, which is a little bit different. So I'm not sure what working with it means to you, because you do have a lot of other tools too, tools that you didn't learn here. So maybe that's what you're referring to when you say work with it. I don't know. Is that the case?
Right now, I'm referring to using the practices you've taught me.
Oh, okay. So the practices I've taught you are not for working with things. So you have these feelings and you're feeling them. Maybe you have thoughts that are going along with those feelings, like same old narratives about stuff. You can still do mantra even while all that is going on without the sense that you're actually working with that stuff. You're basically just stealing energy away from it. Mm-hmm. Right? And you're also learning that even if those things come out to play, you can still just go on your merry way. You don't have to be drawn in by it all. So obviously I'm being a little bit too cut and dry here, because if you're thinking these thoughts and you're having these emotions, some of your energy is tied up in that, right? You have gotten dragged away in some sense. But you can apply effort and also remember to relax and just do something else even as all this is happening. So it's like not really attacking it or getting into it, but it's also not suppressing it. You're just feeling it. I mean, I do this all the time. If I have some feeling that's difficult, I'll just be doing internal mantra. I'll be doing something or other, but I won't be trying to fix my feeling. I'm not doing it because I want to fix my feeling. I'm doing it because I know that it'll put me in touch with something that I want to be in touch with, whether or not the feeling goes away. And also I know that in the long term, it's going to erode or weaken the energy of that. But I don't know how long, because that's not really up to me.
Are there emotions like grief just needs to happen, or so? Like, are there difficult emotions that aren't karmic from your point of view?
Being more realized does not mean not feeling things. If anything, we're feeling more, and we're feeling with more subtlety. It's just that there's an aspect of enjoyment that's always there. That's one thing I could say that's different about experiencing grief when you're more in touch with presence versus if you're not. When I feel grief, which there's a lot of grief opportunities right now, right? It's like bringing intimacy. It's bringing me more into intimacy rather than making me feel separate. I don't feel ashamed of it. There's something enjoyable about it. You know, it has like all these textures and movements, and it feels good on some level. I'm experiencing it as an experience more than as, oh, this horrible thing that I'm feeling. Grief has so much flow. It has so much water element in it. And there's a sweetness to it. And there's other aspects too, but there's a lot of qualities to grief that are, I don't always want to use the word enjoyable, because it's also like poignant, and like you can be moved by your own grief, if you know what I mean. It's grief, but it's not suffering.
Will you talk about hosting with form?
Hosting with form is the signal power or Shakti or intelligence of earth element. Earth element and the 5 elements are giant categories of creative production and intelligence that bring to us all of our experiences in life. And earth element is responsible. This is a phrase that I made up, sort of summarizing earth element, that it's hosting with form. So first of all, your body is a form that's hosting your life. You are being hosted with form because there's structure. There's structures here for you to live and work and play in. We have recognizable food. Every kind of food we eat has form, has boundary. And we have different categories of things. And the ability to set categories and understand things as being boundaried by categories is also an earth element thing. So basically the habitability of our world and our lives is being hosted with all these different forms that make up manifest life, including the organs in our bodies and our larger outer form. So we have forms. For instance, if we're walking down the street, we can notice things as form. For instance, I could be walking down the street and see a building or see a tree, and I know it's a building or I know it's a tree, but I'm not really specifically enjoying the form of it or noticing the form of it. And then the space between the forms is what makes the forms intelligible. So the space and the forms together are like sentences with words with spaces between them. The words are the forms and the spaces are what make the words intelligible. If there were no spaces between words, it would be a lot more difficult to read or speak, right? And if there was no spaces between anything in our lives, everything might have form, but it would all be so smashed together that form would become unintelligible. Hosting with space, that negative space, is the other form of hosting. If we think of our world as a globe, we're being hosted by form at the base and hosted with space above. And together, those two forms of hosting are hosting our whole lives. So you could notice the patterns of the branches and the shapes of the branches of a tree, but you could also notice the patterns of the space between the branches. And together, those two things make the tree legible to our eyes and our senses.
I was just curious about what you think about AI. That's another reason to be very anxious in this world.
I think that there's uses for AI, but I don't agree with the way that it's framed or talked about or the promises that are made. And certainly it's part and parcel of the people that are developing it and the people that are financially benefiting from it and the way that they're treating the environment and all of that. That's not special to AI. That's just what's happening with those people who are destroying human life in so many different ways. But that being said, I think there's some useful things about AI. I just don't think there's any I in it. The idea of intelligence that it is promoting is completely not only wrong, but just dumb. And I wish the same thing I've always wished since I was a little girl was I just wish people could discover more of their native creativity and expressiveness, because AI doesn't have any of that. It's basically a cannibal on human creativity and human thought. And in fact, it's like eating its own tail. Something like 30% of stuff on the internet now is produced by AI, and it's like eating its own excrement. And it's producing all these artifacts and greater hallucinations. They call it something, but it's a problem that people who develop this are having to address. That as AI is just recirculating its own output, it becomes less intelligible. I used to be on this internet forum around this writing app that I use. Like a lot of those forums, a lot of the people on there are tech bros. And when ChatGPT first came out, they were all, oh, look at this poem ChatGPT wrote. It's so great. It's so amazing. It was like the world's worst poem. So I think it can be useful, like even to creative people. I use an AI and it's basically research based, and all I do is ask it questions. I don't ask it to like produce anything for me or summarize anything like that. Certainly not dating it or. So I just think the problem is us, really. Also, we really are not giving enough weight to how misogyny is built into this whole discourse around AI. So, really the goal always has been to replace reproduction and technologize reproduction and technologize the creation of consciousness. That's what a lot of these people want to do. And it's a power grab and it's misogynist. You only have to look at the robot or android models to know what's happening. So I think that piece cannot be overestimated, really. They want to replace God and they want to replace women. So all that's left is them. Satsang with Shambhavi is produced by Jaya Kula, a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. If you enjoyed listening, please help us keep this podcast and many other teachings open to all by making a monthly or one-time donation. Visit jayakula.org to make a donation and explore more of our offerings.